I am Henry, and I'm very tired. It's been a crazy year. Back in June, I married my lovely wife, Lucy, who's a gardener. Now, the thing about gardeners is they tend to go headlong into things without really planning them through. They'll buy 200 plants with nowhere to put them. They'll grow 800 beetroot and have to hand them out to bemused friends when they realise you just can't eat that much beetroot. Or in this case, this particular gardener, Lucy, decided that after a crazy year of wedding planning, after finally getting to a point where there's nothing to organise and we can just enjoy our life, decided to convince her husband that we should get a half plot allotment. Now, by half plot allotment, it turned out, in typical gardener style, that it was actually a 350 square metre commercial grow space at a local farm. I'm not a gardener. So here we are. Let's give it a go. Welcome to Fig Tree Farm. So step one was to get a plan together. I work in digital marketing, and for me, spreadsheets are a really good way of planning things out. It's also useful to see which plants will go together. I know in this plan there are a couple that probably shouldn't be next to each other, but we really just wanted to plan out the beds and work out what our space looked like. We wanted to make sure we had a polytunnel in there and a fruit cage so that we can, for the polytunnel, extend the season a little bit and grow plants to sell at local markets and car boot sales. So once we had everything planned out, we got down the allotment and we started to peg things out and dig our first beds. So we started by planning out this 3x3 bed and we got to work digging. There'll be a lot of videos of Lucy digging and me standing around doing not much else. But the dogs here are trying to help. That's Theo, the little one, and Clifford, the regular sized red dog, is the bigger one. So we started digging out our first bed, and our initial plan was to dig all of the beds out like this, removing that kind of top layer of really kind of mature, matted pasture grass. There have been horses on this field for, I think, the last 20 years. So you can imagine that, the ground hasn't really been broken up at all. It's been stampeded down by the horses, just saving every worm we could there. So after day one, we ended up with this dugout bed. We really realised at this point it was not going to work. The amount of rain that we had was going to be a problem, and it was starting to fill up the bed even as we were finishing digging it. So we needed a plan B. A lot of people on Reddit had recommended no dig, so we decided to use a load of the free horse manure that we had from the local farmer to try and cover this over. We've since decided that this isn't the way to go. We don't think it's going to rot down by spring, so we're just going to rotivate the rest of the beds, hire a rotavator and try that, and maybe dig in some soil improver next year. So we needed to build some compost bays. The farmer had a load of free pallets and he allowed us to just go up and pick them up. I put them on the top of my trusty Polo, took them down the field, left them there, and then that evening in the dark, Lucy and I went down and screwed them all together to make 3 pretty basic but what will hopefully be effective compost bays to compost all that horse manure. So it wouldn't be Fig Tree Farm without a fig tree, and Lucy's late grandmother Pip's fig tree was the first thing to be planted up at the allotment, hence why we're calling it Fig Tree Farm. Lucy got to work digging a hole, and we finally got our first plant in the ground. And then the polytunnel arrived from First Tunnels, who delivered it very quickly. So after a lot of messing around with a tape measure, and I hate maths, but with some trigonometry, i.e. Googling for online calculators, I think we've managed to get the 4 corners sorted out. So we're within a couple of centimetres on the diagonals, and our plan is these are going to be buried right into the ground, so we're going to edge round them, and we're going to dig them down. Now we only have 10 more to go. Digging the corners in first. Lucy's powering through it. Beautiful winter's evening. I have been digging, I promise. I'm not going to pretend that digging these holes was easy. It was back-breaking work. But after 4 hours of digging and measuring and digging and measuring, with aching legs, aching arms and aching shoulders, looking across the field and seeing the beautiful sunset as the mist rolled in was really rewarding, and I'm looking forward to many evenings more like this. Talking of rewarding, getting the poles up was a fantastic milestone. It really made everything worth it. We could see the size of the polytunnel and really visualize it after seeing it on paper, and we could start to get some really fun ideas of how we were going to use it in the coming year. We got the car stuck. Well, somebody got the car stuck. I got it out. Well, the farmer's not going to be happy with it. So it was now mid-December. Lucy found a great big spool of baler twine thrown into a burn pile at the farmyard and used it to map out a grid system across the whole of the plot. This then allowed us to transfer our design of our beds from the spreadsheet design onto the ground itself. And it really helped us visualize and proof of concept the layout. We walked around it, checked out the paths, we walked around with a wheelbarrow and made sure we had enough space to move around. We're having big paths because we're not going to wood chip the paths. The problem with wood chipping is we're going to need so much wood chip that it's going to be very expensive outlay at the beginning. We have spoken to a couple of local tree surgeons who are going to drop off any kind of spare wood chip that they have as and when throughout the year. But for the moment we're going to keep this grass, so we need it wide enough to run a mower by. The reason why I'm having to voice over this is the wind, the noise of the wind, and also these helicopters that keep coming over. And while Lucy worked on the beds, I worked on the polytunnel, with a lot of Lucy's help, of course. So here I am sawing with a broken finger, trying to save a dog from a horse a couple of days earlier. But it didn't stop me. This kit is really nice and easy to put together if you've got any basic DIY skills. I would definitely describe my skills as basic in that area. You should be absolutely fine. And if you're not, if you have any troubles, luckily First Tunnels are really good with their customer service. You can just give them a call or send them a WhatsApp message, even on a weekend, and they'll get back to you and answer your questions nice and quickly. So all that's left to do now is dig a 100-foot trench all the way around the polytunnel and put the poly on. But that's going to have to wait until 2024. Yes, I got stuck in the field too, and this time I couldn't get myself out. In fact, I had to call in the farmer for help. So our plan for 2024 is to try and put out one video every month documenting our progress with the allotment. If you want to follow along with our gardening adventure, do remember to subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get notifications where we upload new videos. Also, we'd love to hear from you. Any advice you might have, any tips or tricks, please do post them in the comments, especially if you think that we're doing something wrong. It's always good to learn from others, and I think that we've got a lot to learn. Looking forward to seeing all of you in the new year. Merry Christmas and have a happy new year.